She was the broken bride left at the platform, until a scarred rancher called her worthy. The train shrieked as iron screamed against iron, grinding to a halt beneath a sky heavy with early November cold. Steam burst from the engine in thick white plumes, rolling across the lonely platform of Dust Creek Crossing, a forgotten stop stitched into the frontier by little more than necessity. The station was barely standing. Splintered boards, a crooked sign, a single telegraph pole leaning like a tired man. But to Maribel Grace Hollis, it had once glowed in her imagination like salvation. She stepped down carefully from the rail car, boots touching wood that felt too exposed, too public. Both hands clutched the handle of a battered travel bag, knuckles pale beneath thin gloves. Her breathing was shallow, measured, as if she feared the wrong breath might shatter her resolve. Her dress was plain, carefully mended, pressed and repressed through sleepless nights. The hem had been stitched again just before dawn. A modest bonnet shaded her auburn hair, and a gauze veil fell deliberately across the left side of her face. She searched the thinning crowd. Then she saw him. Edgar Whitcomb, straight-backed, clean, confident. He dismounted from a gray gelding, boots striking the boards with purpose. His coat was tailored, his cuffs stitched with quiet wealth. He looked like a man who negotiated cattle prices and expected the world to bend accordingly. Maribel stepped forward. With trembling fingers, she lifted her veil. His stride broke. Just for a breath, the wind snapped her skirts. Somewhere, a crow cried. Edgar's eyes fixed on her face. Then his mouth hardened. "You deceived me," he said flatly. Her hand rose instinctively toward her cheek, the long, pale scar that carved from temple to jaw, a memory left by fire and falling beams. "I told you there had been an accident," she whispered. "You said minor," he snapped. "God help me, woman." His voice rose. People turned. Conversation stalled. A dock worker froze mid-lift. A child stared without shame. "I will not marry something that looks like a horror story," Edgar said, loud enough for the platform to hear. "You dressed your letters in lies." Her throat closed. "You wrote that looks didn't matter," she said. "That you wanted a partner. Someone capable. Someone intelligent." He laughed, sharp, ugly, and dropped the bouquet he'd been holding. The flowers scattered across the boards. "That was before I saw you." He turned for his horse. "Find someone else's mercy," he said. "I won't chain myself to a spectacle." Her bag slipped from her grasp and struck the platform with a hollow thud. No sound came from her mouth, only her fingers moved, closing around the last letter in her pocket, the one she had reread until the creases nearly tore. "I'm not searching for perfection," he had written. "I want someone real." She had believed him. Now she stood surrounded by people who wouldn't meet her eyes. Someone whispered, "Poor soul." Maribel bent, retrieved her bag, and stepped away from the wreckage of her future. She found a bench near the freight shed and sat alone as the sun drained itself from the sky. Orange bled into gray. Warmth vanished. She did not cry. Her hand tightened around the letter as if it were the last proof she had existed as something hopeful. Footsteps echoed behind her. She didn't turn. Hope had taught her its price. The platform was nearly empty when a voice spoke. "Miss Hollis." She startled. The sound was low, steady, not cruel, not pitying. She turned. A man stood there, dust-worn hat, lambskin coat slung over one shoulder. His posture was relaxed but alert, like someone used to watching storms form before others noticed clouds. One side of his face was shadowed. The other bore a jagged scar, pale and burned, climbing from jaw to cheekbone. He held her bonnet in both hands. "You dropped this." He didn't toss it. Didn't step too close. She took it stiffly. "You don't have to pretend," she muttered. "Go on like the rest." He didn't leave. Instead, he sat at the opposite end of the bench. Gave her space. "Name's Jonah Reed," he said after a pause. "Run horses west of here." She stared ahead. "I saw what happened," he continued. "And I've seen wolves with better manners." "I don't need saving," she said sharply. He nodded. "Didn't say you did." Then, calmly, he lifted his chin so she could see his face clearly. "Just know what it's like," he added. "When folks stop seeing the whole of you." Her gaze snagged on his scar. It didn't make him frightening. It made him honest. "I've got a warm cabin," Jonah said. "Food on the stove. A bed that doesn't ask questions. You can stay a few nights. Decide your next step." She turned, ready to refuse. But he wasn't pleading. He was offering. "Why?" she asked. "Because everyone else looked away." then softer. And because you're still standing. He rose, pointed west toward a waiting horse. I'll ride slow, he said. If you follow, that's your choice. He didn't look back. After a long moment, Maribel picked up her bag and followed. The woman the town tried to name. The cabin stood a little apart from the land, tucked against a stand of cedar trees that whispered when the wind moved through them. Smoke drifted lazily from the stone chimney, carrying the scent of pine and something hearty simmering within. Maribel paused at the threshold. Warmth reached her before words did. Jonah had already stepped aside, giving her the dignity of choice. No command, no expectation. Fire's been burning since morning, he said quietly. You'll thaw. Inside, the space was simple. One main room, rough-hewn table, narrow bed tucked near the wall, a stove glowing softly. It was clean, carefully so, as if someone had prepared it knowing a stranger might arrive wounded in ways unseen. She stood there, shoulders stiff, travel bag still clutched like an anchor. Jonah ladled stew into a bowl and set it on the table without ceremony. A tin cup followed. Rabbit and beans, he said. Plain, but honest. He didn't sit, didn't stare, didn't ask. Just stepped back and let her breathe. Maribel lowered herself onto the chair, every movement cautious, as if kindness might vanish if she startled it. She ate slowly. The heat worked through her chest like a reminder that she was still alive. That was when she noticed it. A small mirror on the dresser, covered with a folded cloth. Not hidden. Protected. Her throat tightened. He had thought of that. Days passed in quiet succession. Jonah left before sunrise, returning with dusk dusted across his boots. He never questioned how she filled her hours. She swept, mended, heated water, repaired a tear in the curtain. She never turned her scar toward the fire. He never looked away. One evening, she joined him on the porch where he sat sharpening a blade. Stars pricked through the sky, hesitant and pale. My parents died when I was young, she said suddenly. Then the fire. He kept the blade moving. Listened. I thought starting over would be enough, she continued. That if someone promised not to care, they wouldn't. Jonah set the knife down. I married once, he said, before I learned what war costs. She didn't survive the winter after I came home. I'm sorry, Maribel whispered. Some wounds don't close, he replied. They just stop bleeding. Silence settled between them, not empty, but full. I don't have anything left, she said finally. No place, no name, no face worth loving. Jonah turned toward her. Then we start there, he said. With nothing? With truth. For the first time in years, she believed she could rest without disappearing. But towns have memories. And tongues. Whispers followed her into the mercantile, paused when she stepped inside, resumed once she passed. She was the woman abandoned at the platform. Now she was the woman living with a man. Truth was irrelevant. Stories were easier. One morning, Maribel watched Jonah ride out toward the hills. Shame curled tight in her chest. By evening, her decision was made. I'll leave tomorrow, she said as he entered. They're already talking, Jonah replied calmly. All the more reason. He leaned against the hearth. I've lived through bullets and fire, he said, but nothing's harder than walking into a room where silence follows you. She looked away. And I still walk in. That night, he took her into town. They walked side by side. The street fell silent. At the saloon door, Jonah stopped and took her hand. She isn't hiding, he said clearly. If you can't bear the sight of her, turn your heads. No one spoke. They walked out together. And the town remembered. A week later, the past returned wearing whiskey and regret. Thomas Hale. Note. Text identifies the antagonist as Edgar initially. Here is Thomas/Edgar contextually. The man who had left her. Well, he sneered. Didn't expect to see you still standing. Jonah appeared beside her. Still beautiful, he said evenly. Thomas swung. Jonah didn't flinch. Blood touched his lip, but when he kissed Maribel's scar before the crowd, the world stilled. The punch that followed ended it. But it was the kiss the town never forgot. That night, Maribel packed. She left a letter on the table. Before dawn, she slipped away. By mid-morning, she reached the creek, where wildflowers grew stubborn and bright. She did not hear Jonah approach. I didn't read it, he said, holding the letter. I wanted to hear you. I didn't want to be your burden, she said. You were my reason to stop running. They stood there, scars in open daylight. I choose you, Jonah said. And she stayed. What the fire could not take. There was no church bell, no gathered crowd, no lace, no music, no procession. But the land bore witness. Jonah Reed stood beside Maribel beneath the old cottonwood at the edge of the pasture. The tree had weathered lightning, drought, and careless hands carving names long forgotten. Its branches stretched wide above them, leaves stirring gently like a benediction whispered by the earth itself. The morning sun filtered through green and gold, laying soft light across their shoulders. The man standing opposite them, Ephraim Cole, keeper of the boarding house and unofficial witness to half the town's turning points, cleared his throat. I won't pretend I know much about ceremonies, he said, but I've seen enough years to know when something's solid. And this here? He gestured between them. This'll hold. Maribel wore a simple dress of cream cotton. She had stitched it herself by lamplight, each seam steady, deliberate. There was no veil. Her scar was bare to the world, unhidden, unashamed. Jonah's coat was brushed clean, though the cuffs showed wear from honest work. His scar caught the sunlight, pale and sure. When he reached into his pocket, Maribel's breath stilled. He unfolded a small square of silk. It was her mother's handkerchief. Blue stitching traced the initials along the edge. Crooked in places, imperfect, real. I found it after the fire, Jonah said quietly. Kept it safe. Didn't know why. Just felt wrong to let it go. Maribel pressed it to her chest, trembling. I thought it was gone forever. Some things survive, he replied. Even when we don't expect them to. They spoke no vows written by others. Only truth. You were beautiful the first day I saw you, Jonah said. Not because of what wasn't broken, but because you stood anyway. Maribel swallowed, then answered, voice steady. You taught me that love doesn't look away. Ephraim nodded once. That'll do. Jonah kissed her scarred cheek first. Then her mouth. And nothing else mattered. Life didn't change overnight. But it softened. By summer, whispers faded into routine. Curiosity gave way to familiarity. Fear surrendered to habit. Maribel taught reading in the small schoolhouse near the creek. Children crowded close, their fingers ink-smudged, their laughter unafraid. They never asked about her scar. They only knew she read stories like they mattered. Jonah worked iron behind the house. The ring of hammer against anvil became part of the valley's rhythm. He fixed hinges, straightened wheels, mended tools. People came first for work, then for advice, then simply because they trusted him. Women who once looked away now brought jars of honey and seed packets. They sat with Maribel on the porch and spoke softly, honestly. On evenings when the sky turned plum and gold, Jonah would rest his arm around her waist. She would lean into his shoulder, no words needed. One night Maribel spoke. I used to imagine returning to that platform, she said. Jonah listened, not to find him, she added. Just to tell the girl I was that she didn't deserve what happened. He kissed her temple. She'd be proud of you, Maribel smiled. I was left because I didn't fit the shape love was supposed to take, she said. But now I'm chosen, because someone saw all of me. Jonah held her closer. And for the first time, neither felt like something left behind. Final narration /CTA. If this story found its way into your heart, hold it gently. Because scars may mark the skin, but love is what leaves the deeper imprint. She was abandoned for being, quote, damaged, but it was a scarred man who never looked away, who showed her that beauty isn't what fire spares. It's what remains. If you believe in second chances, quiet courage and love that grows because of scars, like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today. Subscribe to US Wild West Love Stories for more frontier romances of grit, grace, and healing. Tap the bell so you never miss the next tale. Until next time, ride gentle, love fiercely, and remember, sometimes the most broken hearts are the bravest ones still beating.